Welcome to Voices in Hyperspace, where friends get together and discuss the hit sci-fi drama from the 90s, Babylon 5. Please join along as we discuss Season 2, Episode 14. Let's go.
This is Legendary Black Lion.
I'm Captain Melisylum.
And this is Nita, the Rebel.
Hey y'all, this is Sunday.
And we looked at the episode is entitled They're All the Honor Lies. And this is an awkward title.
Let's try to say it like a Vorlon. Ambassador Cautious.
Like his cadence.
Yeah.
Being very poetic. There's a couple of interesting themes here. But I wanted to point out some things that didn't happen at all in this episode. They did not mention the Centauri-Narn War or any of the other species being in conflict because of it. There's no Jakar, of course. Actually, it centers a lot of the side characters mainly. We see Sheridan kind of he's on the hot seat, and so they put Garibaldi in charge. We see a lot of movement and a lot of work from Ivanova. Of course, Veer has his own storyline. We get to learn about Veer, and we get to learn about Lanier again. This is kind of if we look at Lanier, this is a continuation of his episode from season 1, and we're getting to see. Well, actually, it's a continuation from what we learned about him in season 1. When did he make that motorcycle with Garibaldi? Was that in season 2 or season 1?
I think that was season 1.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's a callback. Okay, that's probably the same episode. When he went out drinking, quote unquote drinking with Londo. Yeah. And he ended up lying for him. That was a nice little callback. Then it's the same episode was called back with the doll.
Yeah, that was okay. So it's like that same episode, but 1 year later. I do like the writing for it because we get to see the Centauri do take the center stage again. So Londo and Veer, they are being very emotive characters, and this is the thing. This show tricks you to feel empathy for Veer and Londo, but they are war criminals right now. and we're learning and listening more about those two. Mm-hmm. And then we get to see a little bit of diplomacy shuffling from the B5 folks. I feel like they're trying to be heavy-handed, but they're not so. And we'll get into it so we can explain the part that I'm saying. So the episode starts off with Captain Sheridan is briefing Commander Ivanova about the new situation at Babylon 5. Basically, Earth Force is like, y'all need to be able to sustain yourselves. So we've been kind of coming up with some ideas, and y'all need a gift shop. And basically anything and everything that Babylon 5 can sell, they're going to sell to make money. Apparently it's going to add 1 million credits to their yearly, I was going to say allowance, but like what the money that's allocated to them for operating. And of course, Ivanova has to be there because she's all about watching that budget.
She sure wasn't trying to run that gift shop.
Oh no, yeah, she hated that. It was a bad idea. And this made me think, so the budget policy is getting heavier and being more imposed on Babylon 5. And her comments was, this station means something. This is not some Deep Space franchise. I'm like, they're over there throwing shade at Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine from Star Trek. They actually take some direct shots at them in this episode. Later on, when you see the teddy bear, there's at the end of that first scene, Sheridan is saying, "Hey, while you're at it, see if you can find me a baseball cap." What they did in Deep Space Nine is they had a whole baseball team called the Niners or whatever. A whole episode of the Starfleet characters playing baseball against the Vulcan characters. And Captain Sisko's favorite game was baseball. Apparently that's a thing to do in space.
Play with gravity.
Right. Oh wait, yeah, didn't in the previous episode too, Dr. Stephen F. Franklin was talking about his bet for a baseball game, and it was the Martian team that could hit home runs all season in Mars because the gravity's lower, but on Earth they probably won't be able to do that. He was throwing some shade with that too. And so after that conversation, the incident happens. And I thought this was a little wild. So Sheridan is walking through the hallway. He gets bumped into by a guy, and you hear a beep sound, which, you know, if you're watching the show, you don't really pay attention to it. But basically, that dude lifted Sheridan's communication device off his hand. I didn't know it could come off that easy, but it did for this episode. And you see Sheridan run after the guy. He has to go around a corner and up a flight of stairs. And then he bumps into another guy. The guy like grabs him, knees him in the stomach, and throws him up against the wall. It's a Minbari guy. That is, to me, he appeared a little taller than Sheridan. So it was interesting. He was very imposing. And the guy reaches over Sheridan. He says, "Till the death." Right? Is that what he says?
Yeah.
And
something like that.
And
he's obviously warrior class.
Yeah, his clothes identifies him. And he doesn't he have kind of like some spiky head bones?
Yeah.
And then Sheridan looks around and he finds a PPG. And so he just picked that thing up, lift it up, blow, 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 kills the Minbari. And then when he stands up, he looks over the corner. There's another Minbari that just looks at him. He's like, "Oh no!" And then he runs away. And so basically, the episode, we're gonna be trying to figure out how we're gonna defend Sheridan, because we watched him just blast the dude. And there was a witness. Conveniently, there's a couple of mysteries happening around this.
Not to mention the threat of a new war, which they didn't. Still, that makes it even more weirder that they didn't mention the other war. Like, we don't need another war on top of the other, the one that's already going on. But maybe that was redundant.
What, to go a whole episode and not mention the actual war that they're in?
Right.
Who's talking about that old shit? Can't we just let that go?
I guess so. If the actual Narn are not on the episode, so. But I think looking at the show now, like watching the episode today, I'm like thinking about like, well, what is happening? What's going on? Where is Jakar? He's where is he doing his Shakespearean style of speech making?
On his planet.
I feel like they have like a special budget for makeup, and they can only have so many aliens on an episode at a time.
Yikes. That's a good point.
That is a good point. They had a lot of head bones and a lot of face masks.
Because it took like an average like 5 hours for them to get into their makeup, and you had all those Minbari.
Yeah.
Just the Minbari, and then the random aliens in the shop.
That's a good point. So there's a couple of other real fun tidbits about this episode. Julie Caitlin Brown, she is the woman who appears to play the advocate, Sheridan's lawyer later on. That is played by Natoth. She played Natoth. Julie Caitlin Brown played Natoth in season 1 and season 5 of Babylon 5.
That's cool.
Yep. And then you see all the other regular players, which Stephen Franklin is in this episode. Granted, he's standing over a dead naked body. I'm just gonna say it like that because that's what he's doing. And he's being very serious because he's doing an autopsy. Man, that actor is just like ridiculously good for that role. And then the rest of it, Jerry Doyle, who plays Garibaldi. Ooh, I felt really bad about this particular episode for him because it was not very flattering. You can tell he's losing his hair in the episode, but then you can see when he turns around, you can see his bald spots are growing in the back of his head, on top of his head, and I'm like, Yo, let's get to season 3 where he shaves that lower and it's not so noticeable, you know?
He's having the same problem as Cisco.
Oh yeah.
They wanted him to wear a wig, and he's like, no. Like again, like they had that problem with Patrick too. Like, you need to wear a wig, and they're like, no.
Yo, did you see the picture of Patrick Stewart with the wig?
A long time ago.
It is so weird looking.
That's why I said no.
We start off the episode. Sheridan is talking with Garibaldi, explaining what happened, and you know, with the audience, we saw what happened. But Delenn, she comes in. I wrote down that Delenn is pissed. She is furious because she's like, we're gonna do our own investigation. Like, we need to figure this out for ourselves.
She was yelling at him like she was his mom.
Yes, exactly.
Like, why are you yelling at him like that?
And she said, like, our world is gonna insist that we file charges, like, in a very stern voice, you know. Which, I mean, okay, I don't blame her. I don't blame them. It's just the way it's coming across. It's just like, it's very aggressive. So basically, Garibaldi has his investigation. Delenn has hers, and you know, we have these two branches going from this story.
She is usually quite on the side of like understanding and working things out, and from her culture, who is abandoning her at all turns, now she has come to defend them, which I understand that she's doing. But the way she stormed out of that conversation, like, we're gonna investigate on top of your investigation and we'll see who's right, man, and turned around like the humans have done anything to her. She's been having nothing but positive experiences, at least with this group of humans. So I don't know, I just thought the way she stormed off was a little extra, and we not the drunkards at the bar who hate the Mimbari. I'm complete.
She's pissed off for most of this episode, and there are reasons why. So
she's not directing her anger where it should be, or at least attempting to redirect it or have any control. But they don't seem to do that. They seem to have lots of things to say and no actual practices for anything but superiority and their authority. Yeah, like, you can say all this stuff, but you don't practice any of it, really.
This is a good episode to demonstrate that too. Like, this is a Minbari heavy episode, and some Minbari stuff, some heavy Minbari stuff goes down. So Garibaldi asks Sheridan a question about where did BBG even coming from, and that is a good question because for the most part, like, we don't really notice it, but Sheridan isn't carrying anything. He said he's just found it on the ground, and that's where Garibaldi is like, maybe they wanted you to find it. And this is where we're playing around with Garibaldi's suspicious mind. I would like to point out that as much as we talk about Garibaldi being in people's business, as much as we talk about Garibaldi having a suspicious mind and being a good detective, he has sucked at his job for several episodes in a row, including this one. But he's working.
And he's kind of useless. He was kind of useless in this episode, considering it was an investigation and a security matter.
Yeah.
And I was not in favor of Garibaldi asking Sheridan if they should enlist Ivanova. And he's like, no, she's busy and I don't want this to like snowball out of control. Like, sir, you are coming up on murder charges. You the one that need to take a back seat and allow two other people to handle the investigation. Because yet again, the conflict of interest. No other accused murderer is going to be able to get to be involved in the investigation or even get the reassurance from the investigating officer the way he's able to ask questions and what did you find out and this is what I want you to do, still remaining in the position of authority for this episode. I thought that was not okay.
It makes me think that he's having Sinclair syndrome. He's like, you know what? My life is in danger. Let me lead this. I think I think that's the appropriate thing to do. What Garibaldi is finding out is when he is asking questions, the Minbari are basically not answering anything for him. His investigation is going nowhere. Garibaldi is complaining about Lanier always being there. Lanier is either there when he shows up or on his way out. He's coming and going and whatnot. And he's being stonewalled by the other Minbari. And Sheridan speculates that Lanier is helping to orchestrate a cover-up, which I don't think is an unreasonable thing to guess and assume, because like we got to think about the parties that are involved. Mm-hmm. Captain Sheridan, the Star Killer, known for killing the most Minbari in the war. Like, he's famous for that. A warrior caste Minbari who was murdered, and we all know that the warrior caste are not happy at all. They're not happy with Minbari leadership. They're not happy with the religious caste, and they definitely don't like Babylon 5 being led by the Star Killer. So there's all kinds of conflict of interest.
Mm-hmm. They did not approve of him being there.
Right.
They approved of the first guy. They didn't approve of him.
Yeah. We don't expect a successful investigation with Garibaldi. Meanwhile, our good friends, the Centauri, Londo and Veer. Well, it's Veer. He gets a troubling message that was sent to Londo, and so he spends a good amount of time drinking. He's all anxious and frustrated, and we're like, what is the deal? What could cause Veer so much stress? And like in the last couple of episodes, we've seen him basically trying to advise Londo away from using the shadow vessels and usurping power and all this stuff. So he probably has the biggest ulcer in the galaxy. And whatever news he got is probably making that worse.
And he bumped into the resident psychic.
Yeah.
Without even reading his mind, she was kind of like, is there something wrong?
Oh, bro was wasted. He was drunk. He
only had 2 drinks.
Yeah, that's true. But he spilled liquor on her. For the listeners watching the episode, look at Talia's outfit. She looks like she's dressed like one of the X-Men to me. Like, she's in a power suit, but it's like an X-Men business suit.
When the drink was spilled, I think that was the very first one. He hadn't even had 2 drinks yet. That was like 8 hours later that he got checked on and just drinking hella slow.
So is this like just him being very emotional then? Because
yeah, he's down.
I would say so. Mm-hmm. He was very emotionally unstable, and she recognized it, but I think she is not very much a friend of him because she did not follow up and check on him. She has the ability to sense his emotional state better than anybody else because of her telepathic ability, I think.
Yeah.
And then he just seemed extremely startled. When they bumped, he was like stumbling over his words and what to say, and then the outgoing comment was kind of shady, like, you're clearly not okay. Check on him, or even maybe send word if you don't care about him to someone who does, to, look in on him and see that he's okay.
And remember, she's a super psychic. She has telekinesis. So she don't really care for the Centauri. She's like, fuck y'all enslaved telepaths. So no. When we come back, we have Ashan. He is saying that he knows that Sheridan definitely shot Lavelle after he tried to surrender. And I thought this was wild because we are the viewers, right? And we heard what he said to the death. And Lanier is like, he uses a different phrase in Minbari, and he's like, no, he was trying to surrender. So you were mistaken. You murdered our guy. And Sheridan he's just furious. He's like, there is no way. I know exactly what he said.
And he's a dirty rat, bastard, filthy mouth liar.
And they're really trying to figure out maybe something else is going on there. When Ashan leaves, this is where Sheridan is talking to Lanier and Delenn, and he's like, hey, Ashan clearly lied, so we need to clear this up and clear my name. And Delenn, of all people, she looks very serious. She's like, you know what? I'm gonna pretend that I didn't hear that shit. And you too, Lanier. And and Sheridan's like, what'd I say?
You challenged our honor again.
Yeah.
And it is a penalty of death to the accused. We will put your lights out, my boy. And he promptly corrected himself. Well, I think there was an error in what he heard. Get his ass in here so that I can cross-examine him.
Yeah, and I think it would make sense for people who live on a station with all these different species from other planets to understand that they're not always going to understand each other's languages or easily mistake something from someone else's language for something else.
Mm-hmm.
That never came up because that would have made sense, I guess.
I think it's pretty wild to be like, you don't threaten us. It shows how controlling the Minbari are, even of their image.
Especially of their image.
Because
they are not letting their boundaries be crossed. It's like death before dishonor.
It's like, you gonna call us a liar? Well, we're gonna murder you. And it's like, that's a heck of a reaction.
Right.
Yeah.
While they talking shit about how the police, not that I'm with police brutality, but they had challenged Garibaldi about how they go about getting information.
Yep. And then this is where we hear this phrase so often this episode: Minbari do not lie. Just hang on to that and let it just marinate and see if you can remember back in season 1. All right, cool. So, so who arrives onto the station is Sheridan's lawyer, which this is the actress is Julie Caitlin, which she does a great job, but that is the person that played Natoth, and I thought that was great. She comes across as very cold. She doesn't feel as psychopathic as Natoth, though. So that shows range for this actress. And she's giving everybody the business. She's like, Sheridan, you're ignorant. And he's all like, what do you mean I'm ignorant?
You call me ignorant in front of everybody.
Right. And then she's like, my bad. You're naive. He's like, I don't need a lawyer. I can defend myself. She's like, oh, we're back to ignorance. She's basically giving him the rundown. It's like, look, from the information we got, what did she say? We can probably win this.
Yes, she was saying that they want him to go to trial, and no matter if like you win, lose, or draw, he had called her and was like, hold on, you're not telling me everything. And she's like, well, to be perfectly honest, no matter what happens, if this goes to trial, you're not going to be able to stay the captain on this Babylon. You're not going to stay in command here. They never went into the why behind that. Who is in such a hurry to get him out of that position outside of the Minbari trying to set him up because they hate him from being the Star Killer?
Yeah.
The new what do you call the new delegates, the new president and his people, because they weren't the ones who put him there, and they don't want Babylon 5 being ran anyway. unless it's going to be defending Earth.
We had a couple of things happening. We have the Minbari appearing to take steps to remove Sheridan, but we also got like whatever Earth is doing. Maybe they're trying to like also portray a particular image and be protective of the way they look in the galaxy. And since the Minbari are involved, they're like, look, yeah, if we beat them in trial, we got to get you out of there because we gonna look aggressive, and we don't want to start a war with them just yet, right?
Right, because we're trying to be diplomatic with the Star Killer running our main diplomatic station.
Yeah.
And then you go kill somebody, that's gonna look real bad.
Oh, he did. So now, all right, you know what? This is making me ask questions. Why would they want him to be removed if he killed an alien and they proved that he was right?
Because it's still the image, I guess. Other people aren't going to be in favor because some people are not going to believe the what came up in the trial. Even if they prove it in the trial, there's people going to be like, nah, that he really did just kill him.
Right.
Humans.
Maybe he could be easily manipulated after that too, because like they're like the pro-government people, the pro-Earth, pro-human people would be like, yeah, that's our man. He murdered an alien. Let's make him president.
Right.
Yeah, that's a little strange. In the meantime, Sheridan is explaining to Ivanova like all that's going on, and he talks about how he has to hurry to a lesson with Ambassador Kosh down below. She's like, oh, a lesson with Kosh? What kind of lesson? He's like, man, I don't even know. Which I forgot that they were doing that until this episode. I guess they mentioned it in the last couple episodes. Like, oh, I've had to hang out with Kosh. I've had to do this. I had to do that. Right?
Wasn't that the start of it? That conversation that he had. Like, oh, if you don't think I understand, why don't you try to help me learn to understand?
Yeah.
And then they started the lessons.
Is this where Kosh is like, we need to go now?
Yeah.
Okay. So Kosh approaches Sheridan, and Sheridan's like, oh yeah, I forgot. And he's like, well, can we do this later? He's like, no, we gotta no. Which if you think about it, it might be a little intimidating because Kosh doesn't go to see anybody. He just be showing up in places, right? He's like, well, what are we gonna do? He's like, I'm gonna show you beauty.
Something beauty, like unbelievable beauty, true beauty, pure beauty, something like that.
Yeah. But so what they end up doing, they go down below, the dirtiest part of the station, and Kosh is like, what is this place? And Sheridan is explaining like, oh, this is the worst part of down below.
Now go down a little further. Ducky, go down the hole.
And it's a very quiet place, and then Kosh just kind of like angles towards the place, and Sheridan is like, what, you want me to go down there? And he just gets, and Kosh just looks at him and is like, well, why? He goes, a moment of perfect beauty. That's what it is. A moment of perfect beauty. So there Sheridan is. He has to get down on his hands and knees, and he crawls down below like this grate and stuff, which let's remember, down below leaks. So it looks dry in some spots. It's probably wet in others, and Sheridan is putting his hands probably in some moisture, and basically Sheridan gets treated with this chorus from down below. They're all in robes. There was a guy sitting there, nobody's talking. He slides a bowl to Sheridan. Sheridan's like, I don't got no hard currency. And then he pulls off one of his ranking pins, and he explains what it is. This is where we get the different colors for the ranks, which I don't think I've ever noticed in the show ever what color that pin is. So, but what did he say? What were the colors? It was like red, blue, and green.
I don't remember. I just remember Nita putting in the comments that she's surprised that blue wasn't for the security.
Yeah, it was something like that. I don't remember. And the again, I'm sorry, this is another difference from Star Trek. You hear these colors, but you barely see any distinguishing colors.
Right.
And,
but in Star Trek, it's obvious.
Yeah, Star Trek is like your whole uniform is the color of your rank and your job.
your job in black. That's
like you can't pretend to not be an engineer. You look like an engineer.
You in bright yellow.
Right. You're in bright yellow and you have that little travel pack and some tricorders.
I remember the colors for Star Trek because that's obvious.
Yeah.
Like blue is for medical.
Yep.
And red is for command and death.
Yeah. And yellow is for operations. Blue is for science, which includes medical.
Okay.
Yeah. Which on Discovery, the medical people were wearing all white.
Yeah.
Unsettling in some scenes, but made sense in others. And I'm just like, how come they just... I mean, you can't keep white clean through a whole season, so I don't know.
And in medical, well, probably because it's like a sci-fi version of a medical lab, like a lab coat.
Oh, okay.
That's what I think it looks like, a lab coat.
Dr. Crusher wore a lab coat.
Yeah,
and she looked.
And everyone else just wore a uniform.
Yeah. So they sing, and it enlightens Sheridan. He does go back and explain like what he saw and what he heard, and I'm like, how do them people eat? Like, and then they're all covered up in robes. Are they all humans? Are they aliens? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That
was creepy.
Are they a traveling act?
When he puts it down, they all just started covering around, like coming out of nowhere, and then started singing. I'm like,
yeah, it was a dude behind him the whole time. But yeah. I wrote down that this, like, Kosh takes Sheridan down below to listen to his favorite band. And that's exactly what it comes across. And that's how Kosh is teaching. It was like, look, bro, you got to listen to this. It'll open your mind.
It reminds me of people online talking about the more you learn about things and deep dive into things, the worse it gets. And then, like, I don't feel that way because, like, once you get past the worst part, then you find the beauty in things. And maybe that was Kosh's lesson. That wasn't that lesson because you just sent him to the worst part of down below. It was sort of a metaphor, which makes sense for him in his little poetic way of speaking. He wants him to figure it out, but he's not directly giving him what he needs to figure it out.
Kosh is like, look, Sheridan, this place is full of shit, and this part sucks. But if you look closely, despite all of your people organizing the lower classes to be unemployed, that's like that alien from that episode that was trying to have sex with Ivanova. It's like, even though all of that's going on, we got the Blue Man crew underground or whatever. Next, we see drunken Veer. He's talking to Londo, talking about how he feels trapped and underappreciated. This is where when Londo he approaches Veer, and Veer's like drinking and he's all like sobbing and stuff. Londo's like, oh, you know, you can't be drinking all of your sorrows away. You're now on your number. What number drink is this? He's like 2. Yes, you're on number 2. Wait, you're on 2? This whole time you're on 2 drinks? That reaction was great. He was like, 2?
That's a sip for him.
Yeah. Right.
That's a taste. He getting started with 2.
He's probably like, you foiled me. You're more sober than I thought. So my horrible advice probably won't work that great. But this is where we learn some stuff about Veer. Veer is talking about how he feels unappreciated in his role. His family doesn't like him. They think that he's wasting his life away. And then he explains how no matter where he is, he doesn't feel like he belongs, and people always want him to leave. And I'm just like, yeah, bro, stop calling me out. I be feeling that anxiety.
That goes along with our theory of him being the neurodivergent of his species. He's really smart, but he doesn't fit in, and he can't do anything with his intelligence the way his system is set up.
They made it more personal for him because they explain how his family does not respect him.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounds very familiar. And this is the devious part because, again, they're getting you to empathize with war criminals, y'all. So just remember that.
Yeah, that's what I felt like. They were trying to humanize Centauri. Yeah, but they do that a lot. The Psychor guy, he was like, I have a daughter and I take him out to the colony to go to a picnic and blah 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 blah. He's like, see, I'm not a monster.
Yeah. Oh my god.
They've tried to show both sides of the evilness that happens.
Yeah, and then they want you to feel for these guys. So later on, when they show them being absolute monsters, you're like, oh my god, how could you do such a thing? Oh. Mm-hmm. And what Veer is explaining is that the Centauri Republic wants to replace him. Like, his job has become too important to let just anybody like him handle it. And so they're going to replace him with someone who was raised for the part. I was going to say born and bred, which I don't put it that far away from the Centauri.
No.
But
they do anyway.
Yeah. But yeah,
they probably just...
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
They probably want to give it to someone from a higher ranking house. Like, so he has, what's his name? He has more status, so they gotta give him a assistant with more status. Yeah, because they're all about status and appearance and sucking up to each other.
Yeah, or stabbing each other in the back, having protection from each other. Yeah, that's what he's so lamenting about. That's what the message was that he received earlier, which that message was supposed to go to Londo, but it didn't. He was gone. He was busy, which means he was somewhere drinking, he was drunk, or he was at the strip club. One of them. Or all of the above.
Yeah.
Londo is trying to get Veer to like not worry about it so much. But like Veer goes off and Londo like they're in the circle, and Londo is like walking around and he sees a group of Centauri women, you know, obviously beautiful to him. They're all bald and they're laughing. They're like cracking up, and he's wondering what they're laughing at. And they slide him a doll, and it's a doll of him, and he is furious. Which that doll looked funny. Do you know that did they ever have Babylon 5 dolls? Let me look that up.
The action figures?
Yeah.
I think so.
Limited edition Babylon 5 action figures are $20 and $40 on eBay. I found one for $75. What year? Figurines 1997. Okay, yeah, so they did do the Toy Biz back then. In the meantime, Delenn discovers something troubling about Lavelle's background. So what happens is Delenn calls Lanier to her quarters, and she explains that, you know, while she's going over Lavelle's background, she discovered that he was part of a certain family, and it's very disturbing because it shows a connection with the dead Minbari. And this connection shows a potential motive for them setting up Sheridan. We quickly switch to Officer Zach. Officer Zach. I'm sorry. Every time I see him, like, I understand. Like, actually, he's a cool character, but it's just so weird the stuff that be happening to him. So Officer Zach, he's following Ashan because he was told to by Garibaldi earlier. And he oversees Ashan is speaking to a human, and he's about to go confront Ashan, but before he's able to go, Lanier knocks him out like whoopah, like gotcha. And when Lanier rounds the corner, the human runs off, And Lanier confronts Ashan about what's going on. And he's like, why are you talking to that human? Lanier is aware that the human was the thief that stole the captain's link. So he's finding all these characters are in contact with each other. And Lanier insists that Ashan confesses what's going on before it's discovered. Instead, Ashan is like, nah, I'm out. And so he runs away.
It's an honorable thing to do.
Right. Like you getting found out. Yeah, like you running makes you look super innocent, right?
Uh-huh.
We come back to Londo is discussing the doll with the captain's office, and he is furious. It's like, look at this doll. Like, how dare you sell this thing? It's not even a good depiction of a centaur. They're like, what are you talking about? It looks just fine. And then he's like, it doesn't have any attributes.
There were no penises.
Those are the attributes that it was lacking. And
the accessories that came with that doll: liquor, a poker table, so he can pull his dick out,
marked cards.
Marked cards, yes, those are the accessories that came with the Lando doll.
Lando points out, it's like, look, we don't make these statues look like this for no reason. This is what we are. This is what we have. I do think some things happen later to where the tentacles are exposed later in the series. But yeah, he was upset that his doll was not anatomically correct.
What did Vanova say? They were castrated.
Yeah, she almost said castrated. She's like, "Oh, you were mad that you were cast in a unflattering light." Yeah. This is where we hear like Sheridan and Ivanova are talking about like, yeah, we need to get rid of these dolls eventually. Sheridan is like, I don't know what we're gonna do because I'm gonna end up being guilty because Minbari don't lie. And Londo is like, who says Minbari don't lie? And he's like, you know what? Never mind. Forget I said anything. And they're like, no. What do you mean Minbari don't lie? And then Londo comes clean. He goes, well, a certain someone knows a Minbari that did, help him preserve honor. He lied to save face. That's where Sheridan finally puts it together. Like, oh, they will lie to preserve their honor. And so the audience has all the pieces put together to know the motive. We know the weapon. We know who did it. All that needs to happen is we need to catch them red-handed. This is almost coming together like a Columbo episode. If anybody remembers Columbo, it's a show that came out in the 70s, but it is still really good. Y'all should go watch it.
It kind of set the standard for a lot of the mystery detective stuff that came out throughout the 90s. Like everyone was pretty much copying that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, one more thing that just keeps bothering me. I just can't figure it. It was great though. So there is a clandestine meeting between Sheridan and Delenn in the garden. He explains that the Minbari government is insisting that Ashan be sent back to Minbar. That will remove him as a witness. So if they go to trial, they won't be able to have his testimony. And the whole thing is there can be no trial. Sheridan be able to remain. It would ruin his credibility and reputation, though. It'd be like, hey, this dude murdered him. He murdered a guy.
And they hid it by getting rid of the witness.
Yeah. So Sheridan is like, hey, you know what? We actually need help to clear this up. And she explains that she's having doubts of her own abilities because she's half human too, and nobody's really listening to her. So she can't really influence the government. So she explains that for Minbar, the service to one's clan is more important than anything, even one's life. And this finally paints the last picture of the motive for this murder. Sharon replies that humans also understand the concept of honor and have gone to great lengths to protect it. They have to stand up to greater ideals so they don't keep murdering each other all the time. He again appeals to her for help. Lanier calls Ashan to his quarters, and he's getting instructions on like, okay, so the government wants you to leave, and he explains that after he leaves, that Lanier is going to confess that he was the one in charge of the conspiracy. And Ashan is like, why would you do that? He says that because he's part of the same clan, he also bears responsibility. And Ashan is trying to beg him like, no, man, you don't need to do that. We got these humans we're right where we want them. And he said, I will not let you bring dishonor upon the whole clan, because basically that's what would happen. Like Lanier would be the one confessing to setting up this murder, and that whole clan would go down. So he was explaining what Lavelle's plan was, which was he was going to martyr himself to have Sheridan removed. Again, we talked about how the Minbari government don't like Sheridan. and so that was the major reason. And they were like, well, nobody's going to listen and believe them anyway. Like, we get what we want. And just as Ashan is confessing, Delenn, Sheridan, Garibaldi, and Corey, they all come in from the next room. There's like, haha, we got you, son. You confessed. And they show that like Lanier recorded the whole thing, the whole confession, and they were like, we're gonna hold on to this. This is gonna be in good safekeeping. And that's where they reveal, like, in order to save honors for the clan, that's when Minbari would lie. They got Ashan red-handed lying, which that makes me wonder, like, what happens to Minbari when they're caught lying? Does that, I mean, on top of disgracing their whole clan, does that mean death too?
It might mean, like, since honor is such a big thing, maybe they lose some of that. They lose some of that status that they got. Or the clan loses status because, and like he said, Lanier was going to risk his clan to, tell the truth. So if it meant losing some status with his clan, maybe they got knocked down a peg. Maybe there's like this ultimate list of families and they're all ranked, and so like they get knocked down a rank. Well, someone does something wrong.
Yeah, Ashan was saying like the whole clan would be disgraced. So whatever Lanier does is gonna be representing them, and he's gonna be the black sheep of the clan. Like, it was you messed us all up, you ruined us. But we know that Lanier is all cool with that because he did it before. He lied for Londo. That helped him become the key to the solution in this episode. So they have this recorded confession, and Garibaldi has Ashan take it away. We don't see them actually arresting a Minbari, but we can assume he's taken away to a cell. And while Sheridan is grateful for what Lanier does, he decides that he's going to come up with a compromise that's going to kind of save everybody. What he's doing is, by not forcing the truth to come out, he's like, look, y'all going to hold on to this. Get rid of Ashan. We're not going to go to trial. We're just going to let the motivations of the Minbari be a mystery, but you guys are going to clear my name and everybody's going to be cool. Does that sound cool? Cool. And it was basically, as long as Ashan agrees to a public statement about the attack, leaving out the motivations, everything's cool. I thought this was wild because, I mean, think about how much you hate somebody to like, I'm gonna die so they can't keep their job. I mean, that's a different level. But I guess you could say that the Minbari are a high context society, and so pointing out how status and all of that is important. So having this important job is a high status. It's high status for Sheridan, and of course we've seen how it is an affront for the Minbari. You would probably see some zealots really take some drastic measures to have them removed. It kind of reminds me of the Vulcans, I'm gonna appeal to Star Trek Enterprise, because we saw some extremist Vulcans in that series where they like shot themselves up with some sort of chemical that made their bodies explode. So suicide bombing Vulcans. While Vulcans are supposed to be logical, there are some who are illogical, who are zealots, who are extremists, and it's just showing the diversity in these type of species, in these societies, where
they thought the needs of the many outweighed the needs of the few.
Right. Right. But then there's a few who are trying to like blow themselves up, being like, yeah, we need to like get away from them. And now we come into the conclusion of Veer's story. We find Veer is nursing a hangover from his whole 2 drinks the day before. And Londo is like, he's coming in very stern, and he's like, Homeworld has said that they have sent your replacement, Veer, and so you need to get ready and you need to go. You know, very coldly, very matter of fact.
He told him he needed to pack.
Yeah. He's like, go pack. It's time for you to go. I'm sorry. Because he's coming across as a jerk with that, too.
Because he know he said it wrong on purpose.
Yep. And so Veer gets up. He's leaving. He goes to his room, and he's like, I'm sorry, Veer. Did you not listen? Is something wrong with you? He's like, what? He's like, I'm going to go pack. He's like, yes. Why don't you start with this stuff in here first? He's like, this is your stuff. He's like, I know. And this is where Londo explains, like, I told Homeworld that if you're going, I'm going. So you, Veer, need to pack us both up.
I'm going to volunteer you to pack me home.
You know what? All right. I see how the Centauri are very extravagant, but do you think Veer lives in like a small box? Does he have just like a couple changes of clothes and like nothing else?
I don't think, he probably doesn't care as much. He probably does just enough to not annoy the other Centauri. I'm kind of feeling that. I think I called myself out. Well, at some point in my life, I was there. I was like, you know what? The other people want certain things of me, so let me do that just enough to not get them pissed off.
Oh, you're making me sad right now. I understand. Like, I've been.
It's called working in the school system.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, that type stuff.
I've been in a situation where I would move around a lot, and I was just trying to make sure, like, hey, it'll be easy to get up and go. So I had like this basically is a Shigebuton, which is, think of the mattress or the cushions that you would put on a futon, but that's it. So I could just throw that on the ground. There's my bed, and then I could pack my clothes really easy. And so if I needed to go, I could probably be gone in an afternoon.
Oh, wow. We're relating to Veer.
Basically, Londo said, like, hey, I told them, if you're going, I'm going, which means the power that the Centauri have on Babylon 5 is just going to go. They're like, no, we don't need that. You stay. Yeah, keep Veer. It's cool. And then Londo's like, oh, yeah. By the way, Veer, I told your entire family they could stay here for a whole month. You know, Veer's family that doesn't like him. And he doesn't like them. And he even told that to Londo. So,
and he just used that against him for no reason.
Like,
I'm helping you, but you have to remember that I am in charge of your situation. I know you are upset that you have no authority over your situation, but I'm gonna help you get what you want because I have the power to give you what you want. Remember that. That's what he did.
It could be Londo's weird way of being like, we're going to force your family to see how important you are so they'll respect you later. I don't know if that'll work either. I don't know.
They'll probably be impressed with the fact that they get to go be in contact with the great Londo, because now he's got all that status and stuff. and everybody wants a piece of him because he's got status.
Londo is lending his power through
Yeah.
proximity, being like, you stay here, Veer. Let your family see you working next to me, and they'll see how important you are. And then therefore power somehow. Importance, prestige.
Something. I don't know. It makes sense to narcissism.
Yeah. He didn't ask Veer either. He was just like, yeah, I did this as a favor. Because, like I said, Veer doesn't like them. If they're like any other Centauri, it's probably going to be the most annoying thing ever.
Yeah. And Veer seems to value doing the right thing over status.
Yeah.
So his family probably don't like him because of that. And if they see him with status, then that'll probably sway them to like him, which isn't actually liking him. I mean, from my perspective, it's not actually liking him, but from their culture, him having the status of being with Londo is a reason to quote unquote like him.
I think later in the series, when we get a little bit more exploration for Veer, we'll kind of sort some of this out. Because, I mean, we have learned he kind of hates his job, but his job keeps him away from his family. So he likes it. So yeah, Londo is just being an asshole. So I'm gonna save your job, but guess what? The reason you like your job is coming. The reason why you like your job is gonna come here. So yeah. So the show is about to end. Ivanova and Sheridan have a brief talk about the gift shop, which is he's all like, you know what? I hate this. Let's get rid of this whole thing. Because Ivanova has showed him a bear that was part of the gift shop, right? If you remember when they do go inside of the gift shop earlier, Ivanova's walking around. You do see the figurines. And that's why I was asking, like, did they make them? They did make them. Like, all of these shows, along with Star Wars, they were trying to get into the toy business. Mm-hmm. Because back then, if you had a TV show, you had to sell something.
They needed more revenue than just the commercials.
Yeah. And the toy business was great because our good friend George Lucas figured out, like, you don't need a ton of money from the movie itself. Sell merchandise. And everybody did. And oh my God, people sold some of the most worthless garbage back then. Star Trek had figurines. And I'm sorry, I was a kid. I did not care about Star Trek figurines. If I had a little bit of foresight and thought, like, when I'm an adult, I think this will be worth something. I probably would have, but no. Mm-hmm. But the bear, it was a teddy bear wearing a baseball uniform and a cap, which again, definitely digging a DS9. I'm joking, but I would totally go with them thinking of digging at DS9 because again,
the baseball thing.
Yeah, with the baseball game. Ivanova said that this is not some deep space franchise. This place means something. And Sheridan is like, you know what? Get rid of all of this stuff. Tomorrow we're gonna shut down this store. And I want all of this stuff. I want the gift shop. I want everything gone. And she's like, okay. And then he's like snatches the bear from her. And I'm thinking like, oh, he's going to give to his sister. Nope. This dude shoots this thing in outer space and doesn't tell anybody.
They didn't ship out.
That'll be a ticket. 10,000 credits.
Yeah. So, yeah. It was Warren Kiefer who wasn't in the episode until this part at all. They had to make a scene for him to be in it because they were trying to like get the young hotshots in the episode. I don't know. Mm. And he finds the bear. It's an unidentified object, and they're like, "You find the object, and can you explain it?" And he's like, "Nope. Not in a million years. I'm going home." And the episode ends. I thought it would be funny if he shot it though.
But the way he just smacked his windshield.
Yep.
and it slid off of it. And like, oh my god, he doing that. For a second, I thought he was gonna like keep it in his office or something.
I know, right?
And like that be the only one that exists because they discontinued the shop.
Yeah.
But no, he threw it out air.
Oh man, I forgot all about this one part when you guys are talking about the shop and stuff. When
Oh yeah.
Ivanova was in the shop and she kept confusing one alien species for another because of the mask.
Yeah.
I genuinely thought that that was going to have something to do with the framing of Sheridan for killing the Minbari person. I'm like, so who had on the mask? And
Right.
somebody thought that they saw him do something, but that's not what really happened. But that never came up. I'm like, oh man, that would have been great. But yeah,
I mean,
I was
that
wrong.
it could have been played as a red herring for the episode, but I think they just played the gags because they had a guy who was wearing the mask of a Drazi and he pulls it off. He's like, "What? Did you want to try this on?" Which, by the way, we're a couple of months from Halloween season. If you're trying on the open masks at Spirit, you're kind of gross because people don't be washing them things out. They just be putting a hot breath and lips in there. You don't. Yeah. Make your own costume.
Eating birthday cake.
After eating birthday cake or doing other things. Yeah. So you guys are gross. And then Adrazi pulls off a human mask, which that was great because the way they did their transition was hilarious. I liked it because as he's pulling it off, they shift the camera away from him to Ivanova, and behind in the mirror, there's another person that's pulling off a mask, and it's a Drazi, and I'm like, yep, that's fun.
Yeah, because I was going to think that the witness wasn't actually Minbari and had planned the whole thing for him to kill one of the Minbari, but yeah. And then for a second, I thought that the Minbari that had died may have been another species, but then we got Dr. Franklin doing the autopsy, which doesn't make any sense. They would have had to have him on full setting evaporated for that to work.
Yeah,
I did think that could have been a thing too, and I had to think the same thing. But no, there was an autopsy done, and the doctor's too smart for Halloween mask to fool him.
I was thinking if they did have a Minbari mask in the shop, that would have made it that much more dangerous, or a reason for Earth Force to be like, nah, we shouldn't do this. You know what I mean? But
or at least restrict what's going to be sold in it.
Yeah. And then I don't know what kind of sense does it make for an Earth Force run gift shop to be selling alien masks if they don't like aliens.
Yeah, who was in charge of? Because if Vonnegut was supposed to be in charge of it, then if she didn't like something about it, why didn't she just change what they sold instead of everybody getting pissed off of what's being sold there? Just change what's being sold. Did the Air Force have to have that much control? Because Air Force is enforcing that they have this thing, but how much control do they have over what's being sold there? They never specified that. And I was also thinking with Vonnegut being out of the case with him possibly killing somebody and her connection to the shop, if they disconnected her from the case, it would be harder for them to find the information of the mask going to the people who was involved in the framing. But no, they didn't do that. They were just trying to pull at things to distract us. I think they were just distractions. I really feel like they put that in there to trick us.
To trick us, to be some comedic relief. Because, they get rid of that pretty much the same day. I don't know. And it's Sheridan. Sheridan is like, nah, we don't need this. But that means they have to come up with money another way. Maybe Garibaldi is selling plates of Bunya Chowder. I don't know.
He gotta
Anyway.
make a lot of it. They don't have the resources for that.
That's right. They have to smuggle that stuff on. It takes up space.
And it was expensive because it's
Yeah.
heavy, dense. Olive oil is dense.
Yep. I bet the anchovies cost a lot because they are like an animal too.
Yeah.
Was it anchovies? It was anchovies, yeah.
Yeah, and they gotta survive the trip and all that stuff. And even the wheat is hard to grow in space. Like,
Yeah.
they don't have the resources for growing all that. Oh.
Anyway, so we got to see another major threat to Sheridan's command of Babylon 5 averted. We got mainly side characters. Garibaldi once again just sucking as a cop. Kosh doing whatever it is that he's doing.
I showed up.
Right.
What's the bald guy's name that has the assistant that got drunk off of 2 drinks?
Londo.
Yeah, Londo's assistant. He definitely needs some therapy, and
yes, he does. So
yeah,
that's an understatement.
It was definitely cool that even though they were not talking directly about the war, but they were showing the negative effects that goes into him trying to be Londo's assistant and how that's impacting him, because everybody can see that he is clearly not with the shits that Londo is up to, and just telling him to be quiet is not stealing his mind around all the secrecy that he's having to hold on to. Am I correct that we have like labeled him as somewhere on the spectrum or neurodivergent of some fashion?
I was asking if that was the case for his species, because he shows a lot of anxiety. He doesn't like his job. He snaps back at Londo. He hates his family.
Yeah, so that was something that was definitely drawing for me. This is just showing like another way to acknowledge that, yeah, there's something, going on with him, and that he has nowhere to really fit in because he's not neurotypical. He's being challenged. He has not found a community that can support him, through all the difficulties that he's experiencing.
And it's kind of funny. It's a trope in sci-fi that a lot of neurodivergents are depicted as robots and aliens. But in this case, he's an alien that is depicted as neurodivergent within his species, because he does act more human, but it stands out with the other Centauri.
Like, even those kids that came to them for help, they seemed like regular Centauri, but they were just like, why do we gotta live by tradition? They did seem more just like kids, but their whole thing was each other. They wanted to go against that power dynamic.
Yeah, but it was for what they want, and not the greater good, but what they want. It wasn't for anybody else. It wasn't because it's right. It's because they were horny little teenagers.
Yeah. Yeah. Which
that may just been youth, just the power of youth.
It was a good transition or side episode. I wonder how this is gonna play into the relationship between the Minbari and the humans in the future. I want to know what's up with the war. When is Londo gonna return to being a complete war criminal? Because nobody seemed to have a problem with. Well, he didn't interact with many people except for Ivanova and Sheridan, so they don't seem to really have like problems as far as the war with him. But
they don't know what he did. They have no idea. He told his government, "I'm gonna handle it," and after he said, "I'm gonna handle it," it got handled, and they're like, "We don't care. You the man." But for everybody else, they're just like, "Oh, they like you now. Okay, whatever." And he's been annoying for them. They're trying to have meetings, but he don't show up. He just sends notes.
Yep. But they don't really like him. He is throwing that Centauri thing around, making power moves. So, yeah.
Are we talking about his dick?
Yes. But it's mainly I'm using it as a euphemism. We're talking about power and it relating to his penises, plural or one. I don't know. We've only seen one so far.
There's multiple.
There are multiple.
Well, in the statue there was multiple. Yeah, we've only seen one of his penises.
Yeah. Don't worry. You will see more of them later, but okay. We'll get out of here. You guys got any last parting words for us?
Deep in the darkest parts of with what you don't want is something beautiful. I stumbled all over that. Yeah, that's my parting words. That's what I learned from this.
It's like it's like the Concrete and the Rose poem by Tupac. Yeah. We might have to address that because, again, Babylon 5 has not just poor people, but homeless people on the station that live down below. And Sheridan went down there, saw some of them, and left. Didn't help. Not really. And Kosh is there too. And Kosh is just like, yep, look what y'all did. So we're going to get out of here. Thank you all for joining us for another episode of Babylon 5, listening to us here on Voices in Hyperspace. You can catch us on all streaming platforms. We're also on YouTube and YouTube Music, so subscribe to us there. You can interact with us by some of your comments there, or your comments on our Facebook page, Voices in Hyperspace. For me personally, you can find me at Legendary Black Lion on Instagram, and I am on Twitter, but Instagram is the best place to hang out with me.
I'm Mel Asylum. You can find me at melsrebellion.com, and I have a page with all my socials on there. And on my homepage, there is a link to the Voices in Hyperspace YouTube. You can also find my books on there.
Nice.
I am the Rebel Nita. You can find me online, nitapainter.com. On Facebook, I'm Nita Painter. On Instagram, I'm Nita_Painter_. On TikTok, I'm Nita_Painter_. I think that's it.
Hey, this is Sunday. See you later.
And we'll see y'all out there. Peace out.
Bye.